Morning, everyone. This is Leslie from Just Less Creations. I am here this morning to walk you through a tutorial of these little guys. Let's see if you guys can see them. The Abominable Snowman. We're going to make cake pops this morning. I have sticks already dipped in chocolate, ready to go. We're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to take our cake dough. All right, so I'm just using a regular cookie scoop. And I'm just leveling it off. That way I can make sure that they're all even. And I'm gonna do two of them as we go, just in case you missed it on the first round. I'll show you what it's like on the second round. All right, so here's two. Now, first thing I do with my dough is I wanna squish it. I wanna flatten it because I wanna make sure there are no air pockets inside. Air pockets when you put a stick, your lollipop stick down in it. If there's an air pocket, that's an opportunity for your pop to slide. We don't want that. So I'm going to push, and I am going to roll my cake pop in the natural direction of rolling. Now, this is how we get nice round cake pops. We're going to roll it in this way after we have pushed those air pockets out. After we've pushed them out, we roll them in a ball. You can feel when it comes together. Now, when you roll it in your natural way, it usually turns out like a football. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it looks like a football shape. So now I'm going to do the same thing, only I'm going to go backwards. And here's my natural, but I'm going to go backwards. When you go backwards and you roll it around, 9 times out of 10, you are actually going to get a ball. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a nice round ball. It's weird. I don't know the science behind it, but it actually does. So now I'm going to take this ball, and Abominable has more of an egg shape to his head. So I'm going to just firmly press and roll, kind of make an egg shape out of my ball. So I want it to be more narrow at the top than at the bottom. Don't know if you can see that. So we're going to do that again, just so we have a secondary one in case something happens to the first one. I always make extra because you just never know what'll happen. You can have one fall, you can have it break. Sometimes you don't get all those air pockets out and they'll fall off the stick. It happens when you work with chocolate. So there's my natural ball. So I'm just going to flatten it, more of an egg shape at the top. Okay, so now we have two, right? So at this point in time, we need to, I'm going to do this camera here, Jack. So I want to talk to them. I'm going to switch them around. Okay. So at this point in time, we need to make his facial features. So he's got his forehead, he's got his eye sockets, he's got where his jawline is, the bridge of his jawline, and then the indentation for where his mouth is. So there's a real simple tool that works incredibly to do this. Okay, if you switch them, I'm going to use my bone tool. And that's the one that has this little notch here on the end. And it's a little wider in the center than it is in the end. So I'm going to pick it up so that the egg shape, that now we're apart, is at the top of where I'm at. I'm going to take the center right here, and I'm going to, about a third of the way down, I'm just going to notch it, and then I'm going to roll it forward to kind of smooth out that forehead a little bit. Then I'm going to take the rounded portion, and I'm just going to give them eye sockets. I'm going to push straight down and flatten out. One on this side and one on this side. So I don't know if you can see that. All right. And then I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom. So I want to leave the bridge where his nose is at, but then I want to flatten his mouth area. Can you see that? All right. So I'm just going to firm up that egg shape again along the sides. Okay. And then I'm going to do the other one. So I'm going to take my stick, and so I've got about it. I'm wrong way. Sorry about that, guys. I'm trying to learn how to use the camera. All right, so I've got about 1 inch of the white chocolate that I've already dipped. It comes down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip about a half of an inch of my stick into the chocolate, and I'm going to put it, so I don't know if you can see, knock a little bit of that off. So I got about half of what I already have dipped, because that creates the barrier. So when I push that lollipop stick in, not only am I going to push it in, but I'm going to spin it at the same time. And then I'm going to back spin about half of that. And what that does is it allows the chocolate to congeal with whatever it can connect to on the inside. So all the fats right away are going to connect with the ingredients in the chocolate. So it will form that barrier and it'll have a nice firm hold. So I'm going to push it in and spin it. And then I'm going to back it about a half a turn. And then I'm just going to push a little bit to make sure everything is stuck. And then I like a nice clean bottom. So I'm just going to take that bottom off like that. And I'll wipe that off on my napkin. And I'm going to leave this one sit over here on my board. And I'll do the other one. Oops. Because I want that chocolate, remember it's both at room temperature, so I want that chocolate to actually firm up enough so that whenever I dip the whole pop in the chocolate, it doesn't fall off. So while that's doing that and firming up, we'll just give it a few minutes. We're going to make some eyeballs for our Bumble. So I make my own eyeballs for him. You can see it. So we use modeling chocolate. Do you guys ever work with modeling chocolate? Can you drop a yes, no? Do you know what it is when I say modeling chocolate? Modeling chocolate is a combination of your candy melt wafers and corn syrup, because my mixer is on its last leg, so it's pretty loud. I didn't want to do that. So I did that with white chocolate and I did it with black chocolate. Again, I just did the same thing with black. I have a whole bag of it already made up. So we're going to make eyes here. All right, and this is where our icing tips come into play. So I have a number 12. I'm going to use the small end of the number 12. And I am just going to 1, 2, 3, 4, and I always make extra just in case I drop one. So I've got them all in there. I'm just going to go like this, and there we go. We now have eyes. Let me just flip them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to do the same thing with my, I think this is a number 5. I think the number has worn off over the years, but I think it's the number 5 piping. So I'm just going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go flip it over. And there's my pupils. Okay. Now here is where my handy spatula comes into play, because these little guys are so tiny, I can't grab a hold of them. So let's move these out of the way. And so when you're working with chocolate, sugar and sugar is bonded together by water. So right here, I just have a little bit of water. And I'm just going to take my pupils, and that's too much water. I'm just going to take my pupils and just dab them right in the center. Just a dot. That's all we need. Just a dot. And then I'm going to take each one of my little eyeballs. And this is where my little thing comes into play. And then I'm just going to press down, flatten it out, and there we got an eyeball. I don't know if you can see that. I promise as we get through more of these, I'll learn what works and what doesn't, and there'll be better tutorials. Oh, and that's why I make extras, because sometimes they go flying. Okay, so there we go. And when I make them, I make a bulk of them so I don't have to make them every time I'm making cake pops. And usually when I do it, I make cake pops in bulk. So I make sure that I have, come back here. And the last one. All right, so now we have enough to make 3 Bumbles. 1, 2, and 3. So now that we have those prepped, we can go back here and check our pops. They should be about ready. If not, and it falls off, well, then I'll show you how we deal with that. So, how long does modeling chocolate last? I put mine in Ziploc bags, and then I have all of my modeling chocolate. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll show you. We're going to take our dipped pop, and we're going to dip it in our chocolate. We're going to give it a nice stir because the top now is cool, but the bottom is still warm. So I'm going to stir it so it's a nice even temperature again. All right, before I dip it, we're going to put our pop in at an angle, and we're going to push the chocolate towards the eye sockets, forcing that chocolate to come in and just follow the curve of the cake pop. So that's what I'm going to try to show you how to do. So I'm going to push it in at an angle and then push it into those eye sockets. I'm going to push it in, and then I'm going to push to the mouth, just push it in far enough that it reaches the stick, and then I'm going to spin. Okay, and then I'm going to lay it on its side so that his eyes are sideways so that it drips out. We want that to drip on its side. And then I'm going to spin it to the other side because I don't want it to coagulate there. Oh, maybe I didn't leave that on there for long enough. So we are just going to drip. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a pocket right here. I'm going to pop that one because that one will pop. I guess the other thing that I should have said is I let these sit for a good 15 minutes. I don't know if you can see it, but my cake pop is still wobbling on the stick. Can you see that? If I turn it this way, you see it's wobbling. It's because I didn't let them sit long enough to set up that chocolate on the inside. But I'm going to try to work with it anyway, because that's what we do in these tutorials. When they're live, we work with what we have, right? And there's no mistakes. This is actually a really good thing so that I can show you how to keep it moving and be able to salvage this cake pop that normally would fall off the stick. So I'm just going to keep rolling it. And as long as it's puddling, I'm going to keep rolling it. I don't know. On the underside, you see the puddle there? I'm just going to tap it and get that excess off. Now I'm going to flip it upside down, shake it just a minute, but I'm not going to leave it there because I don't want it to fall off. All right. Then I'm just going to tap it to make sure it's down on that stick. All right. And now it's puddling again, so I want to put it over my bowl. The key is patience. The key is patience. If you get impatient, you'll lose it. All right. Oh, it's going to puddle one more time. Okay, it dripped. Now I'm going to shake it so it smooths out. If you shake it enough, it'll smooth out because it's still nice and warm. All right. So at this point, I'm going to let it sit over here, and I'm going to let it firm up. Oh, wait a minute. Not yet. I got to put his eyeballs on. His eyeballs we're going to put on while it's wet. So there's one. I'm going to put it right down in that socket. And there's 2. Again, I cannot stress enough how much this little palette knife is my right hand in this cake pop business. All right, so there we go. Got his eyeballs in there. Now we have to completely let him dry before we can do anything else with that. So we're going to sit him over on the board. Last night at 2 o'clock in the morning, I have a couple here that are already dry so that I can pick up, because it'll take a good 20 or 30 minutes before I'd feel comfortable with doing the next step with this little guy, because we want that chocolate to be really, really dry. So it'll take a good 30 minutes for that. All right, so we're going to take this guy next, and what we're going to do is we're going to add his mouth. We want to make a real nice dark contrast between the light blue and his mouth. So we're going to use a poppy paint. I use poppy paint. I prefer poppy paints on chocolate. You can use a black chocolate if you want, and paint with that. I just find that it's a nice cleaner look if we use a poppy paint. It's a little bit expensive, but it goes a long way and is very, very worth the money spent on it. So, all right. So I have my paintbrush. Right here is the bridge that we put for his top jawline. Right underneath there, that divot, we're going to paint a dark semicircle underneath there for his mouth, because that depth of that perception will really go a long way when we add his teeth. So I'm going to try to turn so you guys can see what I'm doing. Nice straight line across. You guys have any questions for me while we're doing this part? Alrighty. He's kind of got a lopsided mouth here. Okay. So at this point, it'll take about 15 minutes or so for that to fully dry. So I'm going to put them over here on the board. And I have another one. We can pick up where we left off there. And put this stuff away off to the side out of here. Let me move these guys out of here so I have a clean tray to work with. All right. So now we got to take this guy and make him look like this. This is where the fun really begins. I don't know. We're going to add all of Bumble's hair. Again, it goes back to modeling chocolate. You could, the first couple of years that I did him, I actually took a wet chocolate and actually took a paintbrush and brushed it on. That was okay. He looked kind of cute for the first time that I was doing him. But then I didn't like, after maybe 2 or 3 minutes of painting, it started to pull that light blue from underneath. And so instead of a nice white, furry Abominable, he kind of was a light blue. So I started using modeling chocolate, and I really like the look a whole lot better. Plus, it gives them that dimensional look. All right, so back again to my modeling chocolate. I'm going to take that much. It doesn't take much, but I'm going to show you how the layout. Well, I'll just show it this way. All right, let me just soften it up a little bit. Works better. Again, heat, friction causes chocolate to melt in your hands. So, all right, so I've got it soft now, and I am going to make a rough triangular shape. I'm just going to flatten it. Now it's still pretty thick, and I want that so that I can put dimension to his hair. So here's the bottom half of my triangle shape. It's real rough, see that? And then this here is going to be for the top of his head. And I will use this a lot whenever I do hair. When I'm putting hair on it, on a character, I will have this exact same shape. All right. So let me make sure I have the one that's dry. Nope, that's the one that's wet. This is the one. All right. Again, I'm going to use some water as glue. I don't want a whole lot. I want enough water to put a little moisture on it, but I don't want to see any beading of water. Beading of water is too much water and it'll slide. It won't stick. It won't be more of a glue. It'll actually create more issues. So I'm going to just put it on. First of all, I don't know if you can see the beads on that. There's some water beading on there. That's too much. So I'm going to dry out my paintbrush a little bit, and then I'm going to go back over it and pull a lot of that water back off. I just want it just a little bit wet. All right. Now, starting for the little tiny part here, I got the long extended part of the bottom that has to go around the bottom. I'm going to put a little hat on him, right, like this. And I'm just going to form him. I'm going to allow my natural heat from my hands to help form that white modeling chocolate. I'm going to roll them around. Now, here at the bottom, I obviously need to get that stick through there. So I'm going to, right down along the stick, I'm going to use my knife and I'm going to cut it to here. And I can wrap him here. And now on the back side, be careful you don't stick your fingers in his mouth. I'm just going to roll that around to get it on the outside of the stick. So now I have two. Now this will cover to his chin. See that? It's almost perfect. And that only comes because I've done probably, I don't know, 150 of these little guys. So practice makes perfect. Now I'm going to take this part off so I can wrap this side around. And then I will meet in the middle and then cut the excess off. And I want to bring it right up to the bottom jawline. I'm going to remove that excess right there. Take the excess off. Now, one thing I love, love, love about modeling chocolate is because it is heat sensitive, my seam, you cannot do this on like your marshmallow fondant or regular fondant. I actually literally can do away with those seams because heat and chocolate melting, you know, that whole thing. So I actually can do away with all those seams and you'll never even know that I cut it. And I want to make sure I seal up around the base of my pop because I don't want any air pockets in there. Again, oxygen is not good for pops. So now we have this little cute guy like this. You guys getting this? Is this making sense? Am I going too fast? Is this helping anybody? You guys can do this. This is really, I mean, it might be hard for the first time that you do it. Once you understand what you're doing, it'll get easier. All right, so now we're up at the top of his face. We want to get rid of some of this excess. So I'm just going to use my knife again, and I'm going to create a brow line. I'm going to pull that off. And I'm going to take some of this excess off. I should have taken it off at the beginning. I want to make sure he has enough eye space. I'm going to do the same on this side. Now, when you're using your knife and you stick to cut that white chocolate off, well, just don't push too hard because you don't want to get down through the blue, because then, well, that leaves a space for oxygen to get in there and your cake pop no longer will be shelf stable. Well, it will be for a couple days, but not as long as what you could have. All right, so I'm just smoothing that out a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing with the mouth area. I want to make sure that that nice mouth that we just painted on there actually can be seen. So I want to take that out. Excellent. I'm so glad. Well, if you have, is that Kristen again? Kristen, if there's anything specific, my, oh my, please, 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 my 10 years of experience, if it can help you be more successful with your cake pops, please, I will be more than happy to answer questions. So, all right. Now we have all that done. He's coming together. Can you see it? Now we have the bridge of his nose. I'm just going to press that down a little bit so it sticks. I just want to make sure it's sticking. So now I'm going to take a piece that I have just chopped away. You're welcome. All right. I just want to create a little rope. Let's go a little thinner. A little bit thinner. All right. We'll come back to the rest of that. Now I just want to fill in between the two sections, here and here. We want to build that up just a little bit. And again, I'm going to use the heat from my hand, and voila, you don't even know it was there. Same thing with this side. I'm going to flatten it out. I'm going to press it down. Please, whatever you do, make sure that you're not pressing so hard that you actually crack your cake pops. I have done that. It is very frustrating. You just have to, when you're working with chocolate, you just really have to be very sensitive to the pressure that you're using, the heat in your hands. You get it. It just takes a little bit of experience. All right. So I'm just going to clear out. You can see I pushed my chocolate a little bit too far. I want to be able to have his mouth exposed. So I'm just going to push back a little bit with my knife. Yeah, this is like the best $4 investment. If you don't have them, I have like 4 or 5 of them. Get one. I have. All right. So now his mouth is exposed. Let's go ahead and add his hair. All right. So here we have this is called a veining tool. Use it for flower petals and things like that. But it also works wonders to put dimension for hair. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the flat side is up so the veining side is underneath. I'm going to start right at the bridge of his nose, and I'm going to take that chocolate and I'm going to create a hairline, if you will. I'm going to push this towards his eye sockets so it actually looks like he's got, well, I don't know, you can see, actually looks like he's got hair right there on the bridge. We're going to do that all around his eyes and around his mouth. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to push it so that it doesn't have that straight line look. And this is the difference. These little tiny details are the difference between selling a $3 cake pop and a $6 cake pop. These little guys here, I can sell them for $6 a piece. So you want to up your game in your business or whatever. It's the little details. They might take a little bit more work, but it'll set you apart from your competition. So yeah, just pay attention. Just take that, and you'll see. I'm going to do the bottom. You'll see it's only going to take me an extra 2 or 3 minutes just to add these few little details that would take my cake pop from, that $3 or $4 cake pop like your friendly home baker down the road to now I can sell it because of the detail and the amount of work that's in it. All right, and all I'm going to do, I'm just going to brush that chocolate. Do the front first. I'm going to flip it over so I can start at the stick and go forward. And then I'm just going to go around the back. I'm just going to add it around the back. And I just gave him holes in the back of his head. You see that? I just cover over it. Let's do this a little bit more. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing up here at the top. We're just going to press down in at his eyes. And if he's not perfect, that's okay because he's Bumble. All right. So he looks good this way, just like this. But I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm going to give him some whimsical bangs at the top, which will just set him over the top. So I'm going to take all this little chocolate that I didn't use. Roll it into a little ball. Now, when you're looking at things from an artistic standpoint, always do things in groups of 3 or an odd number. So 3 little hair strands are not going to be enough. So I'm going to do 5. I'm going to do 4 of the bigger ones. Oops, can't keep it in my fingers. All right, so it's about 1 inch long. Again, I'm going to go back to my paintbrush. That's the one for painting. A little bit of water right here at the top for glue. I'm going to take it and I'm going to just drape it across the top. I want the top or the front to just be loose, but I want to seal the back like that. So we're going to do that a couple more times. While I'm rolling these out, do you guys have any questions or comments, anything that I can answer while we're here? We're almost done with Bumble. All right, so here's number 2. We're going to right beside each other. You guys all got this? You can go home now and be able to do this, tackle it, follow along with me. The repeat, you can watch the replay over and over again. I'm going to leave it in the Facebook group so you can actually grab the stuff that you need at home and try it. There's number 3. Let's do one more. Water for glue. Nope, just straight out of my spigot. It's cold water. You don't need warm water at all, because the moment the water touches your chocolate, the sugar content starts to melt. So it acts like a glue, and a little bit goes a long way. I mean, you don't need a lot at all. It will instantly bond. If you use too much, it'll slide until that bonding starts. Now, on little tiny things that I want to bond right away, I will sometimes use chocolate if I already have chocolate warm, and use the gluing agent as chocolate. But water is usually my go-to. All right, and I'm going to do one tiny one right here. Oops, I didn't have water there. Didn't go that far. Now that's too much water. Way too much water. I'm just going to tap it off a little bit more. So now we have 5 on there. Now, I'm going to smooth it out like I have done with the rest. Make sure it's all sticking in there. And then I'm going to take my veining tool again and blend it, so you won't know where they start and the rest begins or ends. Just a little bit on the front ends. And there you go. You guys, we've just made a Bumble. Whoops, go this way. Oh, we have to put some teeth in there. Let's do some teeth real quick. Almost forgot. Okay. Well, maybe this was after he got his teeth pulled out. Move this stuff out of the way. All right, give me 1 second here, guys. That's not going to do. All right, my chocolate's hard. Let me pop it in the microwave real quick. In the meantime, is there any other questions while this warms up? Drop them in the comments. While I wait for that real quick, do you guys have any questions for me while that melts? Anything at all? Is there anything that you would like to see me demonstrate? Okay, so Kristen, obviously you do cake pops right now. Is that for a business? Do you just do it for at home, or how about anybody else? I am using for the dip, for dipping the chocolate, I'm just using your candy melts that you buy in the store. I got a Wilton's white. And this one here came from Michael's. It's the, what is it? The Sweet Tooth Fairy for the dipping. But for the actual, like the hair and stuff that I put on Bumble, I'm using modeling chocolate. And that is, I think my recipe is pretty close to 16 ounces of candy melts, and I think it's a half a cup of corn syrup. So, any other questions for me? Let me check my chocolate.
Roberta Reed that asked you that question.
Okay. Oh, nice. You can use some of this very same thing to make Blue's Clue, you know, all of them. Do I have a website? What's that? Was that Krista?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've never done Blue's Clue. My kids were too old by the time that came around, and my grandkids, you know, by the time they got around, it was no longer a thing. So I missed out on that one. I do have a website that I'm working on. It's not live yet. A YouTube channel. I created it, and I'm going to start. It'll be Just Less Creations, and I will begin to do tutorials like this for YouTube Live. So feel free to find me out there. Any other questions? Okay. If not, feel free to put them in the comments if you do. I'm going to show you how to do teeth. Now, you can use poppy paints to put teeth on. I like dimension. So the more I can add dimension to my cake pops, the more lifelike it's going to look. And the more lifelike, the more realistic that it can look, the more money you can sell it for. I mean, that's what it comes down to, especially if you have a business. The more lifelike, more realistic, the more three-dimensional that it looks, the more that you can sell your customers into believing that what they're getting is a real bargain. You know, if it's a 2D look, a flat look, you know, they look cute, but the more dimension, the more money. That's what it comes down to, right? We want to make sure that what we're giving them is quality. So you can use a poppy paint to paint the teeth on there, but I like to use chocolate. I do chocolate because that'll give me a rounded tooth look. So, all right, Jeff. So this is just almond bark, and I used it because that's what I had in the little container that I was using yesterday for my snowflake stuff. It'll work. You can use your regular candy wafers if you want. This is just what I had on hand, and I just melted it. All right, I'm going to try to do this the best that I can with the camera where it's at. We're going to start with their long teeth over here on the sides. So let me stack my paintbrush. I'm going to make like a triangle. So wider at the top, nice and thick and heavy, and then I'm going to pull. Nope, it's not big enough. A little bit more chocolate, wider at the top, and pull. Let me put one on this side. Wider at the top, and pull. And now I'm just going to dot teeth the rest of the way. I'm going to backfill one here and one here. Okay, I'm going to flip them upside down and give a couple bottom teeth. One. Oops. Two. And really, how many teeth you put in there depends on how big you make his mouth. Sometimes I can only fit 2 or 3. Okay. All right. See his little teeth there? Sorry, guys. Still using the camera. All right. Now we have one more thing. And it's all about the details, right? So I'm going to use this white chocolate, and I'm going to give him a little twinkle in the eye. I'm just barely going to put a little white. I want you to take notice. Up. Take notice. See his eyes? Watch what happens. Look. Sorry. Now he's crazy. It's just that little bit of detail, but it really brings life out in your creation. So, and there we go, guys. Our Bumble is done. That's our tutorial. Did you guys have any questions for me? You think you can go out and do this now? You guys aren't really very interactive with me. Would you like to see more tutorials like this? Are you guys interested in this? Is there a place in your cake pops that you're stumbling over that I can put a little help into your business? Is there something that, you know, how to get your, I do Oreos, and yes, I think I could do this with them. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Well, as I create my cake pop stuff, maybe if I can talk my friend Jack to come in and managing the tutorial portion of it, the back end technology, maybe I can do some more of these tutorials with you guys. Thanks for joining me this morning, and thanks for all of, you know, the encouragement and joining the group. I have fun. I just want to share the wisdom that I've earned over the years. I probably have done close to 12,000 cake pops now in my career, and do a lot of them. So, all right. Well, if you guys don't have any more questions for me, I think we'll close out this first tutorial. Thank you for staying with me. For those that are going to watch the replay, I hope that you find it as informative and makes it a little bit easier for you now to just try it. Try it. You can't, there is no mistakes in this kind of stuff. There's only opportunities to be creative. There's opportunities to figure out what doesn't work so that you know what can work. And so there's no, I always say there's creative uh-ohs, opportunities. There's creative uh-ohs. There's no mistakes. So I want you to be creative today, you know, allow that creativity to come out of you and do new things and try new things. And hopefully over the course of the next couple of months or whatever, we can, you know, tear down some fear that you have about creating something and stepping out into something new. So I hope you enjoyed it, and have a wonderfully blessed day, guys. And we'll see you soon. Bye.